So I'm not going to put the full intro in here, but hi everybody. My name is Rochelle. I'm the host of Compassionate Side Hustle Strategy. If this happens to be your very first episode, you're actually getting a really nice look at what it's like to be the podcaster and not just listen to the content that a podcaster is putting out there. This is a sneak peek into the behind the scenes stuff for my business. I'm actually really excited about my current pivot. So I wanted to share with you my plans going forward and pretty much exactly what my task list is for myself and what this podcast is going to be looking like. So this is going to be a little bit different from my usual content. It'll be a little obvious because if you're listening to this during the next couple of months, then you'll be like, oh, it's been a while since she's posted a new episode. But I really did want to take a break, but also I didn't want to leave everyone hanging and make it look like I gave up on this project, because I still want to have my podcast, but I also want to do it in a way that's actually helpful for my business and it isn't just another thing that I have to do every week. So my plan, the gist of it, is basically to shift my current business into a creative business. And by that, I mean that, well, this is actually based on the last year of just my own experience. I've spent a lot more time being creative and artistic and participating in art challenges on Instagram. And lately, I've been getting really into zines and I love attending craft fairs. And I really do hope to one day table at one. And all of this kind of came together when I realized that I want that kind of business. Like, this is a little bit more than just me doing this on the side to keep myself creative and happy. This is actually what I want, versus putting myself forward as a consultant or a coach who happens to also make fun digital collages and zines and, all the rest. So it actually feels like a more substantial change from my point of view and my own slate of responsibilities and what that looks like, just based on my own personal lived experience and what it's like being an entrepreneur within my own business. Because I know that there are probably people out there who can pivot and say, you know what, this is what I'm doing now. All right, it's done. But for me, being like the strategist, the planner, I'm like, okay, so what does that actually mean behind the scenes? What does that mean for my plans going forward? What's going to have to shift for me in terms of my working style, my planning style, and how I present myself online? Because it's still going to be a virtual business, but it's going to look a little bit different, and it's going to appeal to a slightly different sector of people, of solopreneurs. But at the same time, I can also see that it's really not that different at all from what I've already been doing. It's more of a permission slip to make more of the things that I enjoy making. And really, my healthy obsession with entrepreneurship, I like to call it like, whenever I meet or hear about someone who wants to start a business, I always feel like this kind of weird, sneaky feeling of like, ooh, come join my small business cult, because I want everyone to have a business and be able to make money selling things that they love. But I don't phrase it that way, obviously, because cults are not good. But yeah, my healthy obsession with entrepreneurship and helping people with their small businesses is still the main thing. But it's going to look a lot more like a product and workshop based business now. Product, workshop, event based business versus service based, So that's where I'm going. And by the way, if you like these kinds of updates, then I invite you to stay up to date with me behind the scenes and subscribe to my email list. You can go to rochellesanchez.com/subscribe. And what I'll do is I'll also share the email that I sent out on December 6th announcing this pivot of mine and the weird, long, slogging pivot that's been going on this entire year. I'm actually recording this right now on December 7th, having already created all of the stuff for all of the podcasts for the rest of December. And so this is going to be the final episode before the break. Well, getting into the sharing part of this and just what's really going on, what I can say is that running the podcast is a lot of work. And it's interesting because usually when business owners are talking about it's so much work, the idea is that you're supposed to decrease it, right? You're supposed to work on not having the work to do because it's terrible. And I'm like, well, it feels different for me because I actually enjoy the work. I enjoy a lot of work that it is. So running the podcast is a lot of work, but I also like doing it. So I'm going to try to find a sustainable way to keep it going because I like having a podcast and I like doing this. But the thing with podcasting is that putting the content together and putting it out there doesn't really do anything for me and my business if I don't have people listening. And so far, the best way for me to get people to listen that I actually see in my numbers and analytics has been to actively promote each episode every week. And I'm finding that my own personal capacity to work on my business is really slowly decreasing over time. I mean, like, you can leave it to my age or, you know, the world that we have right now or the weather or whatever. Maybe it was due to my pivot. And, you know, maybe by the time you hear this, I'll have found my new groove, but it hasn't really been possible to create good weekly podcast content and promote the podcast as much as I'd like to and as much as I need to, because that's just part of the nature of podcasting is you have to do a lot of promotion because our podcasts exist on, you know, non-visual platforms. And most people think of marketing as like the visual things that you see, but podcasts are audio, right? And so I need to find a nice sustainable way to do both, be the creator and the promoter, at least for now. I think that was the benefit of doing my podcast episodes bi-weekly, like every other week before this season when I changed it to weekly, because I had a week to promote each episode without falling behind. And on top of that, for this last season, I had been doing video recordings for YouTube. And honestly, that's been fun, but it hasn't made much of a difference in my numbers. And I mean, it looks nice and my thumbnails look good and they're fun to make, but I'd be better off doing short form video out of the content that is already in my podcasts because it just shows in the numbers, right? My YouTube shorts do better than the full length videos of them on YouTube, I mean. And of course, if you're listening to this and you know what I'm going through and you understand all these things that I'm kind of juggling in my brain, then you're probably thinking about like outsourcing, right? Have someone else do it. And of course, I will eventually outsource a lot of this. But at the moment, I'm spending my money on other things, either in my business or in my personal life. So it's really just a personal choice to figure out a way to do it all myself. And right now, that just means taking a break from posting new podcast episodes. So the plan is to take a break from the podcast for January and February in 2024. And any podcast related work that I'm doing will be around repurposing my previous episodes and focusing on the highest ranking episodes. So making sure that my episode show notes, the pages on my website are actually helpful, and so that I can use them as references in my emails that I send out or when I'm being a guest on other shows or to refer to them in my email sequences, which I also need to update. So I want to give you a rundown of what I'm planning. Just as a heads up, in January, I plan on offering a course, which is basically a way to plan your social media content for the next 6 months, but doing it kind of in my style where it's not hardcore trending, paying attention to all of the audios and creating all the videos and all that stuff. It's more of a like bigger scope of how content works and how you can plan it so that you're not scrambling for things to share when you're doing your marketing. And then I also plan on offering a vision board workshop, and that one will be free just to kind of get people thinking about what they want for their business, for their life in the new year. And I'm going to do that as a doodle workshop where we're actually going to doodle ourselves doing all the things that we want to do instead of the usual cutting out and collaging pictures from magazines, just to change it up a little bit. I don't have anything against the typical vision board experience, but this is just a new way to look at it. I've done this for myself, and I've been using that vision board that I doodled out a whole lot more than any of like the other collage type vision boards. So I just want to share what that looks like. And then finally, I'd like to give you a rundown of what this looks like just everything that I'm juggling in my brain, but putting out onto paper so that I know what I need to do. This is what the actual task list looks like. And this is something that I've done with previous clients where like they have these big old lofty vision kind of like plans and goals. And it's like, okay, that's good. Let's do it. You can do it. You work on the mindset stuff and you get the confidence and you feel that boost in self-esteem. Like, no, you really can do this. Whatever it is that you want, you can do it. But what is it that you actually need to do? Like, how does that translate into your physical body doing the things? And so for me, all of the above that I've just described and all of the things that I want to do for my business, the pivot, the change in marketing, what's going to happen when I suddenly have a lot more time on my hands when I'm not making new podcast episodes. This is what the actual task list looks like. So it looks like I have a list of 7 different parts of this and what it's going to look like. And some of them are a one and done kind of thing. And then some of them are an ongoing plan for myself just to make sure that I don't overwhelm myself and also I don't fall behind. So the first one is to create a social media content course. And that's the one that I just told you about where it's planning the 6 months. That's easy. It's already done. I literally have the Google slides already finished from when I made it, when I first created that course, and I literally just did it for myself. So that won't take very long. The next task is to create a zine that I'm going to be selling, and that one is going to be the business plan zine. And I'm actually looking forward to that because I'm going to do it for myself for this new business that I'm making. And so just to see it all written out will be nice. I usually write out my business plans in like Google Docs, but I'm really looking forward to it being in more of a physical flippable format. So that'll be fun. And then after that, I'm going to work on the workshop content for the vision board, the doodle one. And honestly, it's just a matter of like documenting what the process is like for myself and then putting up the registration pages, which is literally just I don't know, I might go for the Zoom webinar subscription. And if that's the case, then I'll have to set up the Zoom registration. But at the very minimum, I'm going to only just do it via my email list. So it's just going to be a form to subscribe, and then it tags the appropriate person. So that's the vision board workshop. And then I do need to revisit and adjust my welcome sequence, my email list sequence, and swap out my lead magnet for something that's a little bit easier. At the moment, it's a guide that has like 15 things that you can outsource to a virtual assistant and how they can save you 1 hour per day. And it's a really good resource, but I also know that it's too much. I probably am going to just sell it as a zine, and it's actually already formatted to be a printable zine. So that's going to turn into a paid product. And so that means that I need a new idea, which is probably going to just be like the first chapter of it or the baseline concepts of it. But I'll have something easy to take its place. And then at the same time, I'll also have my workshops, my free workshops as the lead magnets. So I won't have to worry about that too much. It's just a matter of like swapping it out and then replacing it with something else. And then finally, these last 3 tasks that I wrote out for myself are basically the plan for how to keep this whole thing running and where I have to keep my energy going. The first part is spending 1 dedicated day per week making clips of my podcast. So taking those old episodes, old videos, and repurposing them into social media content or other kinds of content. And the nice thing is that I have a subscription for Social Bee, which is a platform that basically it's one of those ones that regurgitates all of the content that you put into it. So when you put content into it to schedule to post on your behalf, then you know that it's going to keep going because it takes that content and then puts it back down to the bottom of the queue. And then eventually it just keeps working its way through the list instead of only a one and done kind of situation. And I've been using that a lot recently, and it seems to be working pretty well. I think I can probably tweak some of the copy on it because I've learned a lot about writing since I first started using it, and I know that some of the posts that I have in there are not following like best practices when it comes to online work and, just content in general for businesses. So I'm going to go through there and make sure that there's still like the light and easy to digest and, emotionally compelling types of posts versus just like straight up promotion. You know what I mean? And then finally, so we have that one dedicated day per week for podcast clips. And then the next part is to spend one dedicated day per week pitching myself on other podcasts. I think that I've just been putting this off for so long because I've been thinking like, okay, I have to represent myself well on my own podcast. I have to have good content out there so that, these podcast hosts who might be looking me up can find the work that I've been doing. And I think I'm ready to finally tell myself, you're good. You can go ahead and apply and start pitching yourself because it needs to start happening a lot more than I need to have a good online presence. I've just reached that point. And actually, now that I think about it, that making clips of my podcast, I'm probably going to change that to like 2 dedicated days per month because it's kind of a creative thing. And if you are like me and have a menstrual cycle, then you know that it's not always possible to be creative and, like in that frame of mind every single week. And so I'm going to change that to 2 dedicated days per month, where I'm really going to focus on taking the audio from the podcast. And honestly, if I do make more content, then it'll really just be me and my voice over existing video, because I really do miss the aspect of podcasting where I didn't have to dress up and have nice lighting and use my good camera and all that stuff. So I appreciate the video aspect, but I'm like, man, I liked podcasting better when I could just do it in my pajamas and no makeup and all that stuff, which I could still technically do. But I mean, if you know, you can do that, but you also don't want to do that, or at least I don't. So that's my list of the actual tasks that I have to accomplish. And it might sound like a lot, but like, honestly, I think that even if I had like a typical day job, other than being a caregiver for my autistic brother, I would probably still plan out my business work this way and have the same items on it. It would be limited to more like 1 hour of work per day versus like, okay, I'll dedicate 1 day of this, because I don't work all day, honestly. Like I know this really well because I run a timer whenever I'm working on my business. And so I know that I don't actually work on my business that much, but I'm also very aware of like how much energy I have at the end of maybe the 2 hours that I did work on my business. And so when I say one dedicated day, I'm really just talking about like, okay, today I'm going to work on this and nothing else, versus expecting myself to keep up with everything. And so just giving myself permission to work on the one thing, get that done, and then know that I'm set for at least the next month. But really, like if I had a day job, I would still do it this way. And it would end up being more like 1 hour of work per day, but I'd still keep these same priorities. I'd also have more personal cash flow. So technically I could outsource some of it, but like, honestly, just looking at the task list that I just read out loud to you, I don't know that I'd outsource any of it, even if I was like fully funded with a grant or something, because see, I know that this is probably going to be interpreted by some people as like a mindset roadblock, like you should outsource all of that stuff. But the truth is that I actually want to do all of these things for myself. And I don't expect myself to be able to keep this kind of momentum going, because I mean, this is really charged by how excited I am about the new business. It's, me doing all of the initial things versus the general ongoing upkeep of the business. And so like my priorities and tasks will be very different 3 months from now. And that's whether or not I hire someone to help me with this stuff. But like the energy behind it and my own personal interest in it is really going to change over the next few months as I keep this going. And I know that some people might describe this as like a mindset roadblock, but honestly, the truth is that I want to do the things and I don't feel overwhelmed, and I feel like it's a good plan. And I also know that I do have time for this, right? So I'm going ahead and letting myself do them instead of trying to win the trophy for the best entrepreneur with the best scaling mindset. I'm just not trying to scale right now. I'm trying to stay organized and enjoy my business. And this is what it looks like. And it'll probably change 3 months from now. So hopefully that makes sense. Anyway, that is the gist of everything that's going on. Thank you for listening and getting all the way to the end of this. This is the kind of stuff that I'm personally interested in, and I wish that other entrepreneurs would share. Aside from, people share things like this in this depth often in masterminds and in, private programs, but I don't know. I felt like it would be worthwhile to share it here semi-publicly on my podcast because, I actually legitimately want you to know what's going on. And I don't mean that in a, ooh, get ready, lots of insights coming. Oh, something exciting is coming down the line, that kind of thing, which I know is necessary, but at the same time, just because you say it's exciting doesn't mean that it's actually going to be exciting for that person who's hearing it. So you can judge for yourself. I'm actually really happy with this slate of work that I've given myself and with the shifts and the learning and the pivot and all of that. And I think that it's going to turn out okay. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to learn why. And I'm going to learn that I was probably only off by a little bit because I tend to be right about this stuff, but we'll see, right? That is it for today. I will see you in a couple of months unless we're chatting via LinkedIn or my email list. So again, my email list is rochellesanchez.com/subscribe if you want to stay in the loop. Or you can send me a connection request as always on LinkedIn, and I'll have all those links in the show notes. All right, I hope you're feeling revived and that you are looking forward to where your business is going in the new year. I hope that you have some safe holidays, you do some gentle celebrating, and you keep going because I really do want your business to succeed. And I think that you know how that can happen for you and your own life circumstances. So keep up the energy, practice good self-care, and I will see you soon.